where we are really, in essence. Martin would have, no doubt, been able to say a lot more about that, but I was sort of thrown in at the last minute. So hopefully that gives people a flavour of what the knowledge management task and finish group, what it consists of, and what it's trying to do. So I think we got a really good team, and our next meeting is on the 21st of February, and hopefully Martin will be reporting back comprehensively at the meeting, next PD working group meeting in May. Okay, Doug, I think that's probably covered it.
Yep, thanks, Mark. That was almost seamless. So you dropped in at the last, last hour, so mid-meeting. So thank you very much for that. So the next update will be on the whole life design safety shares and design for maintenance task and finish group, and Martin is going to give us a quick update on that. I hope, Martin, I know you've rejoined. Yes, you're there, aren't you? I think. Yes. So I'll just bear with me a second. Fire up the slides. Okay, Martin, good to go, I think.
Okay. Getting confused with the Martin system, isn't it? We were talking about another Martin just now.
So Martin Sherlock, sorry, sorry, yes. Apologies. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to get confusing. So yes, safety shares met in December. They continue to look at various issues that we're getting. The group has a lot of discussion around making sure that the information that we're getting across is only on one sheet. We want to minimise that as much as possible. The group also discussed the designing for maintenance subgroup, because that was a task that was given to me at the PD forum the month before, and I was thinking about it, and I don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, so I had to propose to the group that I thought the designing for maintenance and the safety shares were combined, because a lot of what we already look at is designing for maintenance issues. There are issues that either affect both construction, or come out of construction, or come out of maintenance, or design. They come out at any point. And the shares that we're then identifying, the mitigations are all back against those same areas. So we've agreed to keep it together at the moment. If, however, we start to identify that there is another group in there, then we'll split. And we'll review it at that point. At the last meeting, we reviewed 2 areas: high voltage cables under construction areas, and linked that back to PAS 128. That is, one of the key standards around how you actually identify cables or any utilities. It's a standard that's has got a lot of detail in it. So we're referring it back to that. And then the other was around danger to public from poor site security, which the alert, which is on, or the safety shares on page 2 or 3, or 3rd page, sorry, identified. It's got a good picture to represent what the issue was, and it identified what could be perceived as being a small item, but it's actually got quite a big issue on it. So yeah, there's a good safety share coming out on that one. Both are still in draft at the moment. They're not been published yet, so they'll get sorted out in January. This is the old slide. So Sophie, although she's been working with us for 2 years, is still supporting us. She hasn't left. Whereas that one says it does, so we just need to send out the other slide when I send it out.
Yeah. Sorry, Martin, I didn't get a chance to swap them over. But yeah, so Sophie is staying with the group. Hopefully, she's engaged on HS2. Yeah. But in fact, she'll probably bring some HS2 learnings back into the group, so it should be quite good, actually.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I need to say, is that the group's not just looking at highways. Some of the issues that we're looking at are assets that are being picked up in other industries that would still apply no matter which way, because it's, you know, designers are looking at you know, design across anything on the National Highways Network, or anything on the Highways Network that will impact it from other sides, like rail. Likewise with other groups that we've had today, if anyone wants to join this group, it'd be great. It's always good to have different inputs. I've managed to reach out to the Yorkshire North East community that I'm part of, and we've now got Andrew Stagg coming next week when we've got our next meeting. He's from Premier TM. He used to work for National Highways up in the North East, and then switched across to traffic management instead, and he's the safety director for their company. So he's going to bring up a different aspect to look at. He's also a chair of the safety group within that Yorkshire North East community, so may be able to bring some other resources in. If you go on to the next slide, we'll just quickly go over this with the two ones that we're looking at. So this is a high voltage cable one. So we're looking at it and linking it back to the raising the bar and to the PAS 128. And then if you go on to the next one. Yeah, this was looking at an incident where you've got basically a member of the public coming into the works who was allowed to come into the works, but this was the actual access ramp into the site, and yeah, the member of the public there picking up waste, but not in a controlled way, basically. So we've just been looking at that. Both these alerts have had fatalities against it, so I think we might also look at next month to see how we tie these safety shares into the 10 significant risks, and then that will tie into the knowledge group as well. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Martin, for the update. Any comments? I think when these two go on, we'll have 34 shares on the hub site, and I think there's probably another 3 or 4 in. Well, I know there are another 3 or 4 production because we're looking at them at the moment. So, okay, so thank you for the update, Martin. If I just swap out, bring in the next set of slides. Well, slide. Hopefully you can see this. So yeah, I was just going to give a quick update on the Design Risk Management Standardization Task and Finish Group. So it's around sort of terms of reference and outputs. We've only had one meeting. That was principally because we were waiting for the Healthier by Design group to meet, and I think there was sort of a couple of meetings either side of Christmas. So we wanted to align with the outputs from that group. And obviously linking very much with John and John's previous presentation, and you can see sort of the common intent documents and RTB documents on the side there. So I think as a from an outputs perspective, we will be looking to support the Healthier and Safer by Design group in terms of the contents of the common intent, which is currently as a Safety by Design common intent, and that's been widened to include health as well. And we need to sort of look at or ensure that we're encompassing the significant risk exercise that has been undertaken by supply chain as well. So all that sort of coming together will link into an update of the RTB 26 race, which is again currently is Safety by Design, but we'll be looking to be healthier and safer by design RTB. So part of that exercise, we'll be looking to reduce the size of the document to get it a little bit more focused, but then provide links and guidance areas to documents that sit outside the RTB itself. So some of the areas we'll be looking at are design risk management standardization. So we've sort of had some outline discussions here to formalise these into sort of our target outputs around the linking in with the ICE design risk management guidance. A look at sort of terminal. Just lost my signal a bit there. Hopefully you can still hear me.
Yes, you're back now,
Yes.
Doug.
Just come back. Sorry, yeah, I'm sort of not quite sure what happened there. I thought it was a power cut, but anyway, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, looking at the terminology, because there are obviously there's some variance in terminology that's used around design risk, and we've sort of touched on some of those comments earlier. And Paul Brown raised one or two comments there. We'll be looking to link in with Dave Olrenshaw and the work that Dave is doing on with the A66 project team around their risk standardization. And as you're probably familiar, the A66 is, I think it's 3 DIPs working together across 7 or 8 different projects. So they're very much looking at standardizing their well-being, health and safety delivery across the project, and that includes obviously risk standardization to drive consistency. That links into the 5x5 matrix, which we've touched on, and again, hopefully that will be incorporated. Well, the plan is to incorporate that within the updated RTB guidance. We're also looking to link into the work that the HSE are doing around the BIM for health and safety working group, and they've recently published the Uniclass risk classification. So how does that all fit into the sort of bigger picture? There was an aspiration to look at training and roll training out to designers to again to drive consistency, and also feeling that looking at or linking to the RAG list, there's quite a lot out there in terms of RAG lists. So what's out there, making it more accessible. Also then linking into the work we've done previously in supporting the PCF and 3D process around safety by design plans or pre-construction phase plans, maybe generating a template to drive some greater consistency, and then linking in with the other groups, supporting the development of case studies and safety shares, which obviously link back to the knowledge management group and the whole life design group that Martin has just presented on. So that's really as far as we've got at the moment. We've got a further meeting or series of meetings agreed in the diary in February, and we'll be looking to sort of formalise the outputs and confirm the terms of reference. So that's where we're at the moment. So unless there's any questions, as Martin said, if anybody's interested in joining the group, I think we've got 6 or 7 people who attended the first meeting, but please add your names to the chat, and we'll be in touch if you'd like to join. So unless there's any comments, thoughts there, I shall move on to any other business. I've got a couple to raise. So starting with a couple of things that came out of, one thing that came out of our meeting on the 9th of November, and this was a point raised around how do we ensure that we maintain utility access or third-party rights of way in respect to highways and verges, etc. Martin highlighted an example of a utility box which could only be accessed via a very convoluted access route. So in this particular case, was it better to access from the local authority road or from the strategic road network? And this was seen as a bit of a common issue, and we decided that we'd raise it at this in this forum to see if there's any comments, any thoughts, any issues, similar examples that people were aware of.
Doug, are you sharing a different screen or?
No,
or
this was just purely a comment.
Right.
I thought that was covered under easements. A lot of that work, Doug.
Well, yeah, and that was part of the discussion. I mean, it was one of the things. I know in sort of Martin's particular example, there was it was really very difficult access to a utility.
Yeah, I don't know when it was put in, and if there was easements, then well, there can't have been, because it was all being accessed from the National Highways main road, trunk road, motorway, or even. It wasn't. The access should have been from the local authority. It would have been much simpler in the example that I gave.
Yeah, and I think the question was really around, well, what needs to be put in place? Are there any systems, processes, etc.? Yeah, I mean, you're quite right. In theory, there should have been easements in place, but in this particular instance, well, in the couple of examples that we talked about, they hadn't been put in place. But
I think it's rather like we've had discussions previously on access, for gantries and things like that. And Jim's always said, if people have concerns about access, they need to raise that with the local operations teams and get resolution. I know, talking to Connect Plus recently on the M25, they are and have been and continue to review access and put improvements in as and when necessary. But I appreciate that's a slightly different means of procurement. So it is raising these things with the local operations teams. Unfortunately, technology, access to some of the control boxes has been introduced after the event, and sometimes the design hasn't always been that well followed through, considering access, which is a fundamental basics of CDM.
Yeah, add that into a safety share and grab all that information.
We've had quite a few safety shares on that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rob, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just neatly muted myself then. I think just echoing what Richard said about the access, and I think it lends itself to okay, in these particular instances, we probably all have cases we can think of, but I think it's about having a managed approach. So if you've got a whole host of assets that are created for a big scheme, there's actually a workshop that's carried out to consider each location and really sort of quite rigorously consider how access is going to be provided, particularly when we've got works within a highway boundary that we don't want to encroach beyond, and that then creates quite a difficulty sometimes to define an access route. And in the case of utilities, we've had on the A12 again, we've had utilities who we've said, oh well, we've got this fantastic diversion route here with a shared trench, and we'll move your service here, and the utilities, the statutory undertakers have quite politely said, no thank you, we prefer the fact that if it's a longer trunk road, we can normally get access at any point we want. So I think it's perhaps stepping back. We've probably got everybody's got cases or examples, but I think there's also about having a management process, having again, as Richard said, as part of CDM. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, very very useful comment. So the next one was a point that was raised as part of our regional TA meetings, and it was really, I suppose it's more a question or again, good practice, and it's in respect to demobilisation of sites, and was demobilisation and the planning of which, and the processes, etc., was that being captured in construction phase plans? Particularly if you had sort of staged demobilisation over a number of phases, etc. But was the proper planning being put in place, and was that being recorded in the construction phase plan? So it was just I think an example of sort of good practice. I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on that.
Well, in theory, it should be, because quite often demobilisation is, leaving a sort of token gesture, temporary site huts, and therefore consideration needs to be made for, emergency preparedness, etc. So yes, and it links back to what Liz was talking about earlier with dead legs and Legionella, etc.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was a case in point, wasn't it? Where some site cabins that had been on a different site and had been left abandoned for a period of time were then brought in, and then all the problems with blanked out pipes that causing sort of breeding grounds for Legionella, wasn't it? That was
just on that, from the maintenance side, because the maintenance contracts go over longer periods, it's a demobilisation process that's developed that then links into asset plans, then transferred across different owners. That's how I've worked across 20 years. Different processes, different demobilisation process and mobilisation process, all tied together basically. That was exactly how to do it.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Are there any other AOBs that people would like to raise?
Well, I must apologise for joining late because I've had Teams problems. I've got new Teams, and I also discovered during the course of this meeting that new Teams, the chat doesn't automatically update. So you have to sort of shut the chat down and go into it again. So it's an interesting experience. Maybe it's just a fault within National Highways, but maybe we've got a cheaper version. I don't know. I apologise to IT in advance for my comments. As always, Doug, thank you very much for managing the meeting, and thank you everybody for your attending and your excellent contributions. You have an opportunity, as John said and as Doug has said, to contribute. Please do so. We want to see new faces contributing. It's one way you can learn and develop. You can collect CPD points for chartership, etc. So please do contribute and join the working groups. Thank you everybody, and particularly thank you, Doug.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And our next meeting will be face-to-face in May in Birmingham at Arup's new offices. So hopefully see you in May.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Okay.
Thanks
Bye all.
everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks all. Good call.